Serena Williams had always dreamed of becoming someone who could change the world. Growing up in a neighborhood where many dreams seemed impossible, she saw people struggle every day. But instead of letting that stop her, she used it as fuel to push forward. She wasn't the type to let anyone tell her what she couldn't do. From a young age, she set her sights on becoming someone who could stand up for justice, someone who could make people's lives better. Becoming a police officer was one way she thought she could do this, and so she worked tirelessly to make that dream come true. She studied hard, pushing herself beyond what anyone expected. Every day after school, while others went out to play or hang out with friends, Serena stayed home, buried in her books. She didn't have the easiest path. Her family didn't have much money, but they had something far more valuable: support. Her parents encouraged her to keep going, even when it felt like the world was against her. After graduating high school, Serena joined the police academy. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't without its challenges. As a young woman, and especially a black woman, she faced a lot of skepticism. Some people thought she wouldn't make it. They doubted her strength, both physically and mentally. But Serena knew this was just another hurdle to jump over. She worked harder than anyone else. She made sure to never give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her give up. Her determination paid off when she graduated at the top of her class. Serena quickly rose through the ranks, her hard work earning her respect. She showed everyone that she wasn't just another officer, she was someone who could lead, someone who could make tough decisions. But even though she proved herself time and time again, she never got the recognition she deserved. That was until she got the news that would change her life forever: Serena Williams had been selected as the new police chief of Oak Ridge. At first, she couldn't believe it. She had worked so long and so hard, and now, she was going to lead the very department she had worked with for years. It felt surreal, like something out of a dream. But she quickly realized that being police chief would mean more responsibility, more challenges, and more eyes watching her every move. She would have to prove herself even more than before. The pressure was on, but Serena was ready. She had always known this day would come, and she had prepared for it her entire life. On her first day in the new position, Serena walked into the Oak Ridge Police Department with her head held high. She was excited to start this new chapter, but she was also nervous. Being the first black woman to hold the role of police chief wasn't just a huge milestone for her, it was a big deal for the community as well. She knew there would be those who would question her, doubt her abilities, and even resist her leadership. But that didn't stop her. She had been through worse before, and she knew this was just another battle to win. As Serena entered the building that day, the energy in the room shifted. Some officers greeted her with respect, while others just gave her cold looks. She could feel the tension in the air, but she kept her composure. She smiled at everyone, giving them a firm handshake as she introduced herself. She didn't need to say much, her presence spoke for itself. Most of the officers were still getting used to the idea of having a female police chief, let alone a black one. For many of them, the idea of working under someone like Serena was uncomfortable. She could sense their hesitation, but she wasn't going to back down. This was her job, and she was going to prove she was more than capable of handling it. She wasn't just the first black woman in this position, she was the right person for the job. As the day went on, Serena made her way through the building, quietly observing the officers as they went about their work. She could tell a lot about a department by how things were run, and right now, she wasn't impressed. There was a lot of room for improvement, but Serena wasn't going to start making changes just yet. She wanted to understand the culture of the department first, to see where things stood before making any decisions. But then something unexpected happened. As she walked into the break room, Serena overheard two officers, Todd and Carter, whispering to each other. Serena recognized their names immediately. They were some of the older officers who had been with the department for years. They had a reputation for being resistant to change, especially when it came to women and people of color. "I can't believe they picked her," Todd said, his voice low. "A woman as police chief? And a black woman, no less." Carter snickered. "She's probably just here to clean up the mess that's been made. She'll never last long. They'll see that soon enough." Serena's heart sank as she overheard their words. She had faced racism and prejudice before, but hearing it from her own colleagues, people she had worked alongside for years, hurt. She wanted to confront them right then and there, but she decided against it. Instead, she walked past them without saying a word. Let them think what they wanted. She knew she was more than capable of handling the role. The rest of the day was a blur of meetings, introductions, and paperwork. Serena tried to focus on the task at hand, but in the back of her mind, the words of Todd and Carter kept replaying. She knew she was walking into a department filled with people who didn't fully believe in her yet. But that didn't scare her. It only fueled her determination to show them they were wrong. By the time the afternoon rolled around, Serena was ready to leave for the day. She made her way toward the exit, but as she passed the janitor's closet, she overheard another conversation. This time, it was more than just whispers. She could hear Officer Todd and Officer Carter talking loudly, as if they were trying to make sure everyone heard. "Hey, I bet she doesn't even know how to mop the floors properly," Todd laughed. Carter joined in. "Yeah, if she can't even clean up around here, what makes her think she can run the whole department?" Serena's heart raced. It was clear that these officers weren't just disrespecting her because of her position. It was because of who she was. They couldn't accept a black woman in charge. And that thought made her feel a mix of anger and disappointment. Without a word, Serena walked into the break room, grabbed a mop from the closet, and began cleaning the floor. She knew it wasn't her job, but she wasn't going to let their disrespect slide. As she mopped, she focused on the task, making sure the floor was spotless. She didn't need to say anything. Her actions spoke louder than any words could. And she wasn't about to let anyone see her break under their petty mockery. The officers, who had been watching her from the doorway, stopped laughing. They didn't know what to make of it. Serena didn't argue or fight back. She just quietly worked. There was power in that silence. She was showing them that no matter what they said, she would remain strong, unshaken. Serena Williams had always known that to be a leader, you had to be willing to put in the hard work, whether it was leading a department or cleaning floors. The day after Serena cleaned the floors, something felt different. There was a quiet tension in the air at the Oak Ridge Police Department. The officers who had watched her mop the floors the previous day now avoided eye contact with her. They knew they had made a mistake, but no one knew how to fix it. Serena had chosen not to confront anyone directly, but her presence was a constant reminder that things were about to change. She didn't need to say a word, the officers could feel it. As Serena walked through the station that morning, she couldn't help but notice the whispers, the awkward glances, and the hushed conversations. It was as if the air had thickened overnight. The officers who had once looked at her with skepticism now looked at her with uncertainty. They didn't know what to make of her. She had shown them humility when they tried to belittle her, but she had also shown them strength. And that was what they didn't know how to handle. Serena had always been the type to remain calm under pressure. She didn't like to make a big scene or call attention to herself. But she knew that in this new role, she would need to make hard decisions and lead by example. Her job wasn't just about managing the department, it was about changing the culture. And that wasn't going to happen overnight. As the morning passed, Serena spent time going over some of the cases on her desk. She knew that the real test of her leadership would come when she started making changes. There were things about the department that needed improvement, and she had already seen areas where officers weren't following procedures. She would have to address these issues without alienating her team, but she was determined to do it. Later in the day, Serena called a meeting with all the officers. She had no illusions about how difficult her job would be. Many of the officers in the room had worked for years, and some of them had been there longer than she had been alive. They were set in their ways, and that kind of change was hard to push through. But Serena knew that if she didn't address things head-on, they would only get worse. The meeting room was quiet when she entered. All eyes were on her. Some officers looked at her with curiosity, others with a certain resistance. But Serena remained calm, standing tall as she began to speak. "Thank you all for being here today. I know this isn't easy, and I know that some of you might have doubts about me. But I'm here to lead this department, and I'm here to do it with integrity and respect. I want this department to be a place where we all feel valued and where we serve the community with honor." Her voice was firm but gentle. She wasn't trying to intimidate anyone, but she wasn't going to let anyone walk all over her, either. She could feel the eyes on her, the skepticism and the uncertainty. But that didn't matter. She wasn't here for approval, she was here to make a difference. "I've noticed that there are some areas where we can improve. And I want to work with all of you to make those changes. We have to hold ourselves accountable, and we have to hold each other accountable. We owe it to the people we serve, and we owe it to each other." She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. The room was silent. She could see that the officers were processing what she was saying. Some looked uncomfortable, but others seemed to be reflecting on her words. "I know that being a leader isn't about being popular," Serena continued. "It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make things better for everyone in this department and for the people of Oak Ridge." There was a moment of silence after she finished speaking. The officers sat quietly, unsure of how to respond. Serena knew that the hardest part was yet to come. This wasn't just about words, it was about action. She had to prove that she meant what she said. A few days later, she decided to hold one-on-one meetings with the officers who had been most vocal about their doubts. Todd and Carter, the two officers who had mocked her when she cleaned the floors, were at the top of the list. Serena knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. They had to see that she wasn't just going to let things slide. The meetings were tense. Todd and Carter tried to keep their cool, but Serena could tell they were uncomfortable. She wasn't there to yell at them or make them feel bad. She was there to have a conversation, to help them understand why their actions weren't acceptable. "I've heard some things about how you've been treating me," Serena began, looking Todd directly in the eye. "I want to give you the chance to explain your actions." Todd shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly avoiding her gaze. "I didn't mean anything by it, Chief. It was just a joke," he muttered, almost defensively. "A joke?" Serena raised an eyebrow. "Do you think making fun of someone because of their race or gender is funny? Because that's what you were doing. And I won't stand for it." Todd looked taken aback. He had never been confronted like this before. He had assumed that as a senior officer, he could get away with his attitude. But Serena wasn't like the others. She wasn't going to tolerate disrespect. "I'm not here to fight with you, Todd," she continued calmly. "But I need you to understand that respect is the foundation of this department. If you can't show respect to your fellow officers, then how can you expect to earn it from the community?" There was a long silence before Todd spoke again. "I get it, Chief. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect you. I'll do better." Serena nodded. "I hope so, Todd. I'm counting on you." The next meeting was with Carter, and the conversation went much the same way. He was defensive at first, but by the end of the meeting, he too apologized for his behavior. Serena wasn't looking for apologies, she was looking for change. And as hard as it was, this was the first step toward creating a department where respect was the standard, not the exception. As the days went by, Serena continued to address the issues within the department. Some officers resisted her changes, while others embraced them. But through it all, Serena remained calm, focused, and determined. She wasn't going to let anyone's prejudice or biases stop her from making Oak Ridge a better place. Serena knew this wasn't going to be easy, and she knew it was only the beginning. But she was ready. She was ready to lead, to challenge the status quo, and to build a department that reflected the values she believed in. Every step she took, every decision she made, was a step toward changing not just the police department, but the community as a whole. The days following Serena's one-on-one meetings were filled with both progress and setbacks. The officers, especially those who had initially shown resistance to her leadership, began to realize the magnitude of their actions. While some officers still avoided eye contact with her or kept their distance, others began to show subtle signs of respect. They had seen the power of Serena's calm strength, and it was becoming clear that she wasn't just the new police chief, she was someone who would change the department for the better, no matter the opposition. Serena spent much of her time in the weeks that followed getting to know her officers on a personal level. She knew that understanding the people she led was essential to making meaningful change. One afternoon, she gathered the department for a meeting to discuss the goals for the upcoming months. She had been in the role long enough to identify the areas that needed immediate attention: better communication, more effective training, and a stronger commitment to diversity and inclusion. The room was quiet as she spoke, but Serena could sense the officers' curiosity. They were no longer mocking her from behind closed doors. Instead, they were beginning to listen. She had earned their attention, even if they hadn't yet fully accepted her as their leader. And for Serena, that was a start. "Team," Serena began, standing at the front of the room with confidence, "we have a lot of work to do. I've been watching and listening, and I want to make sure we are all on the same page. We need to foster better communication among ourselves, and we need to make sure that we are serving this community with fairness and respect." She paused, looking around the room, her eyes meeting those of the officers. Some of them nodded in agreement, while others simply stared back, unsure of where this new approach would lead. "Change is never easy," she continued, "but it is necessary. And I know we can do it, together. Our job is not just about enforcing the law, it's about protecting the people we serve, creating trust, and leading by example." Serena could feel the weight of her words in the room. This wasn't just about policies and procedures, it was about rebuilding a culture of respect and accountability within the department. Some of the officers looked skeptical, while others seemed to be reflecting on what she said. But Serena didn't expect immediate results. She knew change would take time. She was in this for the long haul. One of the first tasks Serena tackled was organizing a diversity and inclusion training session for the entire department. She wanted to ensure that every officer understood the importance of treating everyone, no matter their background or ethnicity, with dignity and respect. While many of the officers in the room were eager to participate, some remained skeptical, whispering amongst themselves about what this training would really accomplish. Serena knew that some officers would need time to come around, but that didn't stop her from pushing forward. The training session was intense. Trainers from outside the department came in to lead the discussions, and they covered difficult topics like racial bias, systemic inequality, and the importance of empathy in law enforcement. Some officers were visibly uncomfortable, but Serena encouraged them to engage and ask questions. She was determined to make sure that everyone, regardless of their beliefs, could understand the importance of these issues. As the day went on, it became clear that the conversation was having an impact. More and more officers started to open up, sharing their own experiences and struggles. By the end of the training, there was a noticeable shift in the room. While not everyone was completely on board, Serena could see that the seeds of change had been planted. Officers were starting to realize that the work they did every day wasn't just about enforcing the law, it was about building trust with the community, and that required a deep understanding of the people they served. As the weeks passed, Serena continued to focus on building trust within the department. She held regular check-ins with the officers, giving them a chance to voice their concerns and share their thoughts on the changes she was making. Some were still resistant to the shift in culture, but many were starting to see the benefits of a more inclusive, respectful work environment. Serena made it clear that she was always available for feedback and that every officer's voice mattered. Despite the progress, not everything was smooth sailing. One afternoon, while Serena was reviewing case files, she was approached by Officer Todd. He was one of the officers who had been most vocal about his doubts in the beginning. Serena had noticed that he had been trying to improve, but there was still an underlying tension between them. "Chief," Todd began, "I wanted to talk to you about something." Serena looked up from her desk and gestured for him to sit down. "Of course, Todd. What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking a lot about the training we had a few weeks ago," he said. "I'm not going to lie, I didn't think it was going to make much of a difference. But I've been looking at things differently since then. I've realized that I've had some blind spots. I've worked here for years, and I thought I knew everything. But I didn't." Serena listened intently, her eyes focused on Todd. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Real change didn't come from commands or policies, it came from moments like this, when someone was willing to admit their faults and work to make things better. "I appreciate your honesty, Todd," Serena replied. "It's not easy to recognize our own biases, but it's a crucial step toward becoming better officers and better people. I'm glad you're willing to take that step." Todd nodded. "I'm still learning. But I want to do better. I want to be part of this change." Serena smiled. "You're already on the right track. Keep it up." This conversation marked a significant turning point for Serena. Todd had come to her not with resistance, but with a desire to learn and grow. Serena knew that this wasn't just about him, this was about every officer in the department. Change was happening, slowly but surely. However, not all the changes were happening in the department. Word of Serena's leadership was beginning to spread beyond the police station. The community started to take notice of the new police chief. Local leaders began reaching out to her, asking for meetings and expressing their support for the changes she was implementing. Serena wasn't interested in taking all the credit for herself. She knew that any progress made would be the result of her entire department working together. One evening, she was invited to speak at a town hall meeting. The room was filled with community members, local leaders, and even some reporters. As Serena walked to the podium, she could feel the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a chance to speak, it was a chance to prove that she was the right person for the job. The room grew quiet as she began to speak. "Thank you all for having me here today. I know that Oak Ridge has faced its fair share of challenges, and I understand the importance of rebuilding trust between the police and the community. I'm here to listen to your concerns, your ideas, and your hopes for the future. I want to be a police chief who serves you, not just enforces the law, but works alongside you to make this town a better place for everyone." Her words were met with applause, and Serena could feel the support of the community. This was a new chapter for Oak Ridge, and she was proud to be at the forefront of the change. The road ahead was still long, but Serena was confident that, with time and effort, things would continue to improve. She was no longer just the first black woman to become police chief, she was becoming a leader who could inspire real change. The department and the community were both on the path to healing, and Serena knew she would keep pushing forward, no matter the challenges she faced. As the days turned into weeks, Serena felt the weight of her new responsibilities settling in. Being the police chief of Oak Ridge wasn't just a title, it was a constant balancing act. She had to manage the expectations of the community, navigate the complexities of her department, and still find time to focus on her own growth as a leader. But despite the challenges, she was more determined than ever to make Oak Ridge a better place for everyone. One morning, Serena arrived at the station early, as she always did. The quiet before the storm of daily activity was something she had come to appreciate. It gave her a chance to think, to plan, and to prepare for the day ahead. As she sat at her desk, reviewing some reports, she noticed a folder on her desk that hadn't been there the day before. It was marked Anonymous Complaint. Curious, she opened it and began reading. The complaint was from a concerned citizen who had observed some troubling behavior from a few officers at the station. It described incidents where certain officers had been disrespectful to members of the community, using harsh language and making inappropriate jokes. The citizen had detailed specific times and places, but there was one part that stood out. It mentioned that Officer Todd, the same officer who had apologized to her after the diversity training, was involved in some of these incidents. Serena's heart sank. She had been hopeful that Todd was on the right path, but now she was faced with the reality that change wasn't always as quick as she hoped. She knew she had to address this immediately, but she also knew that handling the situation with care was essential. She couldn't let her personal feelings cloud her judgment, but at the same time, she had to uphold the values she was trying to instill in the department. After thinking it through, Serena decided to have a private conversation with Todd. She called him into her office that afternoon. When he walked in, he seemed a bit uneasy, but there was no sign of resistance. He had been through enough of these conversations in the past, and Serena knew he was ready for an honest discussion. "Todd, I received a complaint this morning," Serena began, her voice calm but firm. "It mentioned some behavior that's concerning. I want to hear your side of the story." Todd's face immediately reddened, and he shifted in his seat. Serena noticed his discomfort, but she also noticed that he wasn't trying to deny the allegations. "I know I've been trying to do better, Chief," Todd said quietly. "I really have. But I messed up again. I got caught up in the moment, and I said some things I shouldn't have." Serena leaned forward, looking him in the eyes. "This isn't just about saying the right things, Todd. It's about living those values every single day. I can't have officers in this department who make the community feel unsafe or disrespected. You know that?" Todd nodded, his eyes lowered. "I understand, Chief. And I'm sorry. I let you down." Serena's heart softened, but she kept her professional composure. "I don't want to let this slide, Todd. I need to see more from you. This isn't just about making apologies, it's about taking responsibility and showing through your actions that you're committed to change. You've already come a long way, but you can't stop now. We all have to keep learning." Todd was silent for a moment, processing her words. Finally, he spoke. "I'll do better, I promise. I won't let you down again." Serena believed him. She could see that he genuinely wanted to change, but she also knew that change took time. And as much as she wanted to give Todd the benefit of the doubt, she couldn't ignore the fact that this incident was a setback. It reminded her that leadership wasn't always about sweeping changes, it was about managing the small, everyday moments that could either break or make the foundation of a team. After her conversation with Todd, Serena spent the rest of the day reflecting on the path she was taking. She knew that not every officer would change overnight, and not every situation would resolve itself easily. But that didn't mean she could give up. It was in these tough moments, these struggles, that true leadership showed its worth. And Serena was determined to see this through. The next morning, she gathered her team again. This time, the meeting wasn't about grand changes or new policies, it was about reaffirming their commitment to the community and each other. She needed to remind everyone, herself included, that they were all on the same team, working toward a shared goal. "Yesterday was a hard day for all of us," Serena began. "But it's also an opportunity. We can choose how we move forward from here. Each one of us plays a part in shaping the department's culture, and we all have a responsibility to uphold the values we've been discussing. Respect, fairness, and accountability aren't just words on paper, they're the foundation of everything we do. There was a shift in the room as Serena spoke. The officers who had been skeptical were starting to see the bigger picture. This wasn't just about following rules or completing tasks, it was about building a culture that reflected the values they all swore to uphold when they joined the force. It was about earning the trust of the community, and that started with earning the trust of each other. "We're not perfect," Serena continued. "And we will make mistakes. But we have to be willing to learn from them and be better every single day. That's what I expect from all of you, and that's what the community expects from us." Her words lingered in the room, and for the first time, Serena could feel a real sense of unity beginning to form. The officers, while still uncertain about the changes she was pushing for, were starting to realize that this wasn't about her, it was about them, too. It was about creating a department where every officer felt proud to wear their badge and where every member of the community felt safe and valued. Later that week, something unexpected happened. Serena received a letter from a local community leader who had been critical of the police force in the past. The letter expressed gratitude for the changes she had made and praised the department for its efforts to rebuild trust. The leader invited Serena to speak at a community event, something that would have been unthinkable just a few months ago. Serena was surprised, but she also felt a deep sense of pride. This was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. When she arrived at the event, she was greeted warmly by community members who had once been skeptical of the police. As she spoke about the future of Oak Ridge, she could feel the support of the crowd. It wasn't just about her leadership anymore, it was about the collective effort of everyone in the department and the community to move forward together. "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to lead this department," Serena said, standing before the crowd. "But more importantly, thank you for giving us all the chance to grow, to change, and to be better. Together, we can make Oak Ridge a place where everyone feels heard, respected, and safe." The applause that followed was not just for Serena, it was for the entire department, the community, and the hard work they had all put in to get to this point. Serena knew that the road ahead would still be challenging. There would be setbacks, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But she also knew that they were on the right path, and that was enough to keep her going. As she left the event that night, Serena felt a sense of hope that she hadn't felt before. The work wasn't over, but it was a start. And for Serena Williams, that was all she needed. The weeks that followed marked a turning point for both Serena and the Oak Ridge Police Department. The road to change was never smooth, but Serena had learned to navigate the bumps, and she was determined to continue leading her team toward a brighter future. Every morning, as she walked into the station, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges she faced were not small, but with every challenge came a new opportunity to show the department and the community what true leadership looked like. Serena had made it clear from the start that her vision for Oak Ridge was one where every officer respected the law, treated people fairly, and worked together for the betterment of the entire community. She was keenly aware that change didn't happen overnight, but she could see the signs of progress, and that kept her going. One day, after a particularly long meeting, Serena sat at her desk and reflected on the journey she had taken. There had been moments of doubt, moments where it seemed like things might never improve, but looking back, she could see how far they had come. The officers who once whispered behind her back had slowly started to embrace her leadership. The community, once distrustful of the police, was now beginning to show more support. These weren't just small wins, they were proof that the hard work was paying off. But Serena knew that this journey was far from over. The work of transforming an entire department, of breaking down years of built-up resistance, was a marathon, not a sprint. There was still a lot to be done, and Serena had no intention of slowing down. As she sat there, deep in thought, her phone rang. It was Captain Reynolds, the senior officer she had met during her first days on the job. Despite their rocky start, Serena had come to appreciate his experience and his willingness to learn. Over time, Captain Reynolds had become one of her most reliable allies in the department, helping her implement the changes she had set out to make. "Chief, I think it's time we hold a town hall meeting, Captain Reynolds said, his voice steady but enthusiastic. The community is starting to see the changes, but I think they need to hear it from us. They need to know we're serious about making Oak Ridge a better place for everyone. Serena nodded, feeling a spark of excitement. This was exactly what they needed, a chance to continue rebuilding trust and to show the community that they were not just talking about change, they were actively working to make it happen. Great idea, Captain, Serena replied. Let's get the details together and make it happen. We need to show the community that we're here to listen, and that we're committed to their safety and well-being. The town hall meeting was scheduled for the following week, and Serena threw herself into preparing for it. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was ready. The meeting would be a chance for her to address the community's concerns directly, answer questions, and reassure them that the police were working hard to serve them. When the day of the town hall arrived, Serena stood in front of a crowd that filled the local community center. The room was buzzing with conversation, and as she walked to the podium, the room fell silent. It was clear that the community had come to hear what she had to say. Serena took a deep breath and smiled. Thank you all for being here today. I know Oak Ridge has been through a lot, and I know that trust has been broken. But I want you to know that we are working every single day to rebuild that trust. We are committed to making this community safer, stronger, and more united. As she spoke, Serena looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the community members who had come to see her. She could feel the weight of their skepticism, but she also felt something else: hope. The room wasn't as hostile as it had been in the past. There was a quiet optimism in the air, and Serena knew that this was a pivotal moment. We understand that change doesn't happen overnight, she continued, but we're here to listen to you, to hear your concerns, and to make Oak Ridge a place where everyone feels safe, valued, and respected. We're not just here to enforce the law, we're here to serve you, and we're here to make sure that we are always working in the best interest of our community. After Serena finished speaking, the floor was opened for questions. The community members took turns coming up to the microphone, asking tough questions, raising concerns, and offering suggestions. Some were critical of the police force, while others expressed their support. But through it all, Serena remained calm and composed, answering each question with honesty and transparency. She didn't make excuses for the past, but she emphasized the steps they were taking to improve. One of the most emotional moments of the meeting came when a local mother stood up. She shared how her son had been treated unfairly by the police in the past, and how it had caused her to lose trust in the department. But as she spoke, she also mentioned that she had seen the changes in the department since Serena had taken over. She thanked Serena for her leadership and said that she was willing to give the police another chance. "Thank you, Chief," the woman said, her voice cracking with emotion. "I see the difference you're making, and I appreciate it. I'm willing to trust you and the department again." Serena's heart swelled with gratitude. This was why she was doing this. This was why the hard work mattered. In that moment, she knew that all the struggles, all the setbacks, were worth it. The trust that had been broken was slowly being mended, one conversation at a time. The town hall meeting ended with a round of applause, and for the first time in a long time, Serena felt like she had truly made a difference. It wasn't about being liked or being popular, it was about being respected, and more importantly, it was about showing that she was committed to making things better for everyone in Oak Ridge. As she left the meeting, surrounded by the officers who had come to support her, Serena couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The road ahead was still long, but Oak Ridge was changing. Slowly, but surely, the department and the community were becoming more connected, more understanding, and more supportive of each other. In the days that followed, Serena continued to focus on the work that lay ahead. She knew there would be more challenges, more tough conversations, and more obstacles to overcome. But she also knew that she wasn't alone. She had the support of the officers in her department, and more importantly, she had the support of the community. For Serena, this wasn't just a job, it was a mission. And she was determined to see it through. There would be setbacks along the way, but every step forward, no matter how small, was a victory. Oak Ridge was on the path to healing, and Serena Williams was proud to be leading the way.